The vicar had no intention of telling me why he was flying to Scotland when the perpetrator of the crimes was obviously a bass guitarist living in London. Unless he didn't live in London, of course. Perhaps the vicar had tracked him down and the bass guitarist lived in Scotland. Yeah, it seems unlikely, but it was worth a stab. So, why does Billie G use a bass guitarist living in Scotland, I asked casually as we negotiated the pontoon.
I didn't know she did, he replied, showing no interest. You would have thought it would be easier to use someone based further south.
No, it definitely seemed to me that he lost interest in Billie G and was moonlighting. It surprised me. He's famed for his forthright views on propriety and business ethics. It was difficult to imagine him charging Richard Breamore for a flight that had nothing to do with him. But then, how could Edinburgh fit into this case?
I think I shall drive today, he said, heading to the driver's door as we approached the car. You are always inclined to dawdle. Dawdle? Even Michael Schumacher could not persuade the Grannymobile to do anything other than dawdle. But I had no time to nurse my wounded pride, as no sooner had the vicar taken the wheel than he was firing instructions at me. He'd arranged for a stopover of around 3 hours in Edinburgh, and the soonest he could be back was 7:30. That will be a little tight for my debut celebrity boating dinner party, but it is workable, he said. You will simply have to do all the preparation for me, he smiled broadly. Buy in all the food, of course, some of that excellent carrot and coriander soup from Covent Garden for starters, and then something Italian perhaps. Do I remember reading somewhere that Billie G is a fellow vegetarian? I said that I was sure she was. Good. I find it most difficult entertaining carnivores. Unhealthy throwbacks. He looked over at me. But I shall leave the choice of menu entirely up to you. Buy plenty, as it is possible that there will be an extra guest. It all depends on how today goes. As ever, he was enjoying keeping me in the dark. I doubt our extra guest has ever eaten a meal that does not contain any meat, so that will make it doubly interesting. He had a wicked twinkle in his eye. If it does not work out for you as a recording engineer, you can regard today as a day's training for a possible career as a butler. He looked across at me while dodging through the traffic, although I'm not sure that you have the looks for it, or the necessary sexual orientation. If we did not live in an age of equal sexual opportunity, I would definitely demand that any butler of mine should be gay. And of your many undoubted qualities, I fear being homosexual is not one of them. As we approached the M25, the traffic got busier, and he finally had to stop trying to annoy me and concentrate on manoeuvring the great ship Granny through the traffic. He made it to the airport with the obligatory hour to spare. Now, this was a time before they extended the waiting time several days due to the terrorist threats. There will be a screening of the midweek lottery tonight, was his final parting thought. And I am sure Richard could get you a pass if you want to check out the studio. You'd better keep my mobile phone in case I need to get in touch with you. With that, he disappeared into Terminal 1, and I was left to drive back to the Betsy. Now, I know I've referred to the Betsy before, but perhaps I should try a little harder to describe her. Firstly, as I've already said, she's made of concrete, or at least the hull is. From sideways on, the dreaded beastie resembles a concrete bath with a roof on it. And the vicar may have done a lot of work on the inside, but it still doesn't stop you from feeling that you're inside a well-appointed coal bunker or perhaps a prefabricated garage. His guests were unlikely to see the slickest bit, which was definitely the double bedroom in the stern. Now that's the back to landlubbers like you and me. Complete with an invitingly large curved double bed and ensuite bathroom. A veritable babe magnet in the hands of a experienced professional like yours truly. Which reminds me, why is the Kazi on a boat called the head? I mean, why head, I ask? Why not some other part of the body? I don't know, like the arse. That would seem more appropriate. The only time that my head goes anywhere near a pan is after a lengthy night out on the town. And even then, as I'm sure you can imagine, I miss more often than not. My arse, however, visits a throne far more often and is considerably more accurate. Yeah, well, I suppose that's sailors for you. I digress. Back to the matter in hand. How could I make such an ugly duckling into a swan in the space of one day? In less than a day, in fact, as I was determined to take my chance to visit the National Lottery studios. Outside caterers was the only answer. Some flowers, a well-laid table, some candles. I mean, is that too much to ask for? Yeah, well, for most of the companies I called, it clearly was.
as my fingers had to do some extensive walking. In fact, they probably completed a half marathon before I finally tracked down a company in the Yellow Pages who were willing to take on such a bizarre situation. Darling, if we can decorate a marquee, then why not a concrete coal bunker? They promised to meet me at the boat at 5 o'clock, which left me exactly 5 hours in which to visit National Lottery Studios, assuming that Breamore could get me a pass. I was as nervous about talking to him as I was excited about nosing around the studio. And in the end, my excitement won, although I tried very hard to persuade his secretary to arrange things herself without putting me through to her lord and master. Isn't it strange how secretaries will never put you through to someone when you desperately need to talk to them, but will insist on it when you'd rather not? I'm very sorry to disturb you, sir, I began. The vicar suggested that you might be able to get me a pass to TV Centre so that I can have a look at the National Lottery Studios.
Where is David? He asked.
I tried to sound important. Oh, well, he's been called away to Scotland on business. He's asked me to go to the studios on his behalf. Breamore made it very clear that he would rather wait until the vicar could go himself, but I was not going to let him steal my moment of glory. Unfortunately, sir, it has to be today as they'll be preparing the midweek lottery. It really would help our investigation very much if you could get me a pass. I thought that I slipped in the phrase our investigation most professionally, but he was having none of it.
Just remind your vicar, he said pointedly, that I am paying him, not you, to look after Billy G. If he telephones, tell him I wish to speak to him. Immediately. In the meantime, I'll see what I can do. Phone my secretary in a quarter of an hour.
He got me the pass, of course, and I duly went off to Television Centre. Now, I'd love to relate the visit in detail, but what's the point? Yeah, unless you're interested in a mediocre description of a BBC TV studio, or the fact that the warm-up comedian is far more interesting than the show itself, or the absurdicrous way that the audience clap and laugh like sheep when they're told to by an officious floor producer who waves her arms around like a frustrated conductor. And that was just the rehearsal. To begin with, I ascertained very little, except that absolutely anyone on Breamore's guest list could have switched the CD. Billy G had a rehearsal before the show, at which time the music must have been correct. Between then and the main show, Richard Breamore's entire party traipsed through the control room at his request, so it could presumably have been any one of them. Although I did get something of a result, as we might say in the business, with the bass guitarist. An assistant particularly remembered him as he was wearing a black leather kilt and seemed to be really quite interested in the way the control room worked. He suggested that I talk to the KMFDM t-shirt guy who brought the CD from the studio, as he was also there the whole time. Now, unless there'd been an unexpected and frankly unlikely outbreak of KMFDM fans, even I had to look them up on the internet to see who they were, this must have been the assistant who I'd met working with Billy G. So hopefully he may have noticed when the bass guitarist made the switch. Altogether, not such a poor piece of detective work, even though I say so myself.
That boy's not cool. He's got ears the size of a deer face, broken nose and a twisted face, with a voice
What exactly do you know about Widow Walker?
Absolutely nothing, I replied quite truthfully.
And so, what did David mean by it?
I have absolutely no idea, I replied, feeling that my genuine ignorance was probably my best protection against some unknown fate.
And so why does he think that these magic words will bring me to dinner?
Chapter 9.